Tonight, growing international outcry, including from Canada, over Israel's plan to expand its military operations in Gaza.
It is going to put the lives of the hostages at greater risk.
Fears it could drag out the war and lead to even more civilian deaths.
This could be the moment where it all comes to an end, where Palestinian life in Gaza will not be sustainable at all.
We have analysis from Jerusalem, where the plan is dividing Israelis as well. New research looks at why women are more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease.
We're trying to understand whether or not menopause is a window at which some females might be showing early signs.
Plus, she's won her first championship, so what's next for Victoria Mboko?
I would say her agent's phone is ringing a lot today.
The opportunities and the challenges that lie ahead.
From CBC News, this is The National with Heather Hiscox.
Good evening. Israel is defiant tonight in the face of a mountain of pushback, both internationally and at home, to its potentially deadly escalation of the war in Gaza. The plan, not the full military takeover Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had said he wanted. Instead, after a marathon meeting, the country's security cabinet agreed to take control of Gaza City, where Israel believes some of the remaining hostages are being held. It's one of the few remaining spots in the territory over which Israeli forces do not have full control. And it's home to 1 million Palestinians, nearly half of Gaza's population, who could soon be forced out. We have full coverage tonight on the plan, the condemnation, and the possible consequences, beginning with Chris Reyes.
It's all that's left of Gaza City, rubble and tents. Those who live here are barely hanging on, and with Israel's plan to take it over, they could be forced to leave. This is shameful, says Sabrine Naim, who, like so many Gazans, has already been displaced many times. Prime Minister Mark Carney expressed his disapproval.
It is going to put the lives of the hostages at greater risk.
Carney echoed other leaders across the globe. Germany, a major arms supplier to Israel, says it will no longer export military equipment that Israel can use in the Gaza Strip. The EU and the UK urging Israel to reconsider their action. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer called the Israeli escalation wrong, saying it would only bring more bloodshed.
And it's very unclear how this serves Israel's long-term strategic objectives.
Ahead of the decision, Israel's prime minister said it doesn't want to govern Gaza.
We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving Gazans a good life.
The plan calls for disarming Hamas, returning of all hostages. Israeli officials believe 20 are still alive. The IDF would carry out the operation and deliver aid. The plan has stoked even deeper divisions in Israel, already torn over Netanyahu's handling of the war.
I think it's just a matter of protecting us, from future terrorists' infiltration again.
Jerusalem resident Elena Mizrahi says the cabinet decision could put the hostages' lives at risk. Humanitarian Shana Lowe's biggest fear, Netanyahu's plan, could be the final blow to Gaza.
This could be the moment where it all comes to an end, where Palestinian life in Gaza will not be sustainable at all.
Even in Gaza, despite the circumstances, there is the will to stay. Where should we go, says Sabrine Naim. I say let us die where we are. It is better. Israel already controls most of Gaza. Its latest plan would amount to an almost complete takeover of the enclave. Chris Reyes, CBC News, London.
Let's bring in CBC News senior correspondent Susan Ormiston from Jerusalem. Susan, what has actually changed since the cabinet approved Netanyahu's war plan?
Well, Netanyahu's government has set its course. It's drawing Israelis, Palestinians, civilian soldiers further down a war path, trying to convince critics that this war is winnable, even though it hasn't been up till now. And even the first phase, Heather, forcing the evacuation of Gaza City, forcing displacement of 1 million people down south when they've already moved around a lot, where the basic necessities in encampments in the south can't even provide for the people that are there now. That's not even assured, and that's the first phase.
What's the feeling about all of this among Israelis, Susan?
There was hope earlier in the summer that the complicated pieces of a ceasefire might fall into place and the hostages might be exchanged. But now the hostages' family are accusing the government with this military escalation of signing a death sentence for the remaining hostages. You know, it was a week ago when Hamas released those cruel videos showing weak and emaciated hostages still in captivity, and that really inflamed emotions. And October 7th, 2 years on, is just 8 weeks from now. So there is support to crush Hamas, but a majority of Israelis wanted a negotiated settlement, a deal, and that seems further away than ever.
Thank you, Susan. Susan Ormiston in Jerusalem. We're learning details tonight about a much-anticipated meeting aimed at reaching a deal to end Russia's war with Ukraine. Donald Trump says he will meet with Vladimir Putin next Friday in Alaska.
You're looking at territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years with, a lot of Russians have died, a lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated.
Trump was speaking after signing a framework peace deal with the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan. Asked if he thought a similar moment could be possible between Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, Trump said his instinct tells him there's a shot. Members of the Canadian military are getting a pay raise, part of a $2 billion plan to boost recruitment and retention. And as Ashley Burke explains, the lowest-ranking members will see the biggest increase.
At an airbase in Trenton, Ontario, the Prime Minister unveiling a big incentive package to address a big staffing crisis that's been going on for years.
As the demands on our Canadian Armed Forces have increased, their resources and their salaries have not kept pace.
The Canadian Armed Forces is short almost 13,000 personnel. To try and recruit and retain more members, Prime Minister Mark Carney's boosting pay based on rank. The most junior members will benefit the most with a 20% raise.
Canada's not seen something like this this millennium. It hasn't seen it since the late 1990s, so it's a generational shift.
Today's announcement will help in some ways, but we have a lot of work to do in other areas.
One of those areas, getting people into specific trades like maritime technicians. They're needed to get ships to sea, and there aren't enough of them.
Our biggest challenge is the knowledge that the Canadian Armed Forces offer a wide variety of careers.
The military says about 40% of its occupations are facing a critical shortage in staff. Now those who enroll, train, and serve in those positions could receive up to $50,000 in bonuses. There is also now more pay if military members serve for more than 5 years, have to move, work in the Arctic, or on domestic operations like fighting wildfires.
It is significant, but we need to recognize that in the circumstances of natural disasters, service members do face danger and the possibility of death.
But there is criticism. The opposition says the pay raise should have been 20% for all members.
This may help to some degree, but they still have to address the morale issue. They still have not made any announcements about military housing.
The new measures will cost $2 billion a year, part of an additional $9 billion Carney already announced to boost defense spending so Canada meets its NATO commitment this year. Ashley Burke, CBC News, CFB Trenton.
Many people with upcoming summer travel plans are holding their breath tonight as Air Canada and the union representing thousands of flight attendants get back to the negotiating table. They could strike as early as August 16th. Anis Haidari lays out the contract sticking points and the options for customers.
Go Canada, go! These students are heading to a robotics competition in South Korea. They're due to return in just over a week, But that could get complicated if thousands of Air Canada flight attendants go on strike.
So August 18, we are coming back with 40 kids and parents, they will be waiting for them. I hope those challenges could be solved.
Negotiations have now restarted between the union, QP, and the airline. But after a strike vote of 99.7%, the union now says flight attendants could walk off the job by August 16th, though it must give 3 days' notice first. That threat has some passengers trying to rebook, which may be easier said than done.
The fact that it's the summertime, a lot of the flights are already booked up. So there's not necessarily going to be a lot of options for people.
The flight attendants want wage increases and say they need to be paid for time worked before a plane takes off. Many North American airlines don't pay for that time. Air Canada has said it's made a proposal that addresses this, though it didn't provide details. Union members say they'll demonstrate at several airports on Monday. Similar to actions airline pilots took last year. Those pilots ended up winning big wage increases without a strike. But if flight attendants eventually earn more, it may not mean Canadians start to pay more.
Pricing is competitively based. It's not based on, cost of fuel's going up 15%, cost of labor going up 10%. But if the competitor drops its price by 5%, you're going to raise your fares?
So if flying in Canada is also tied to how many or how few alternatives Canadians have, then strike or no strike, that isn't changing. Anis Haidari, CBC News, Calgary.
New job numbers came out today, and they're much weaker than expected. Statistics Canada says the economy lost more than 40,000 jobs in July, the biggest monthly drop since 2022. The losses were mainly in full-time work, with young people being hit the hardest, but the unemployment rate held steady at 6.9%. A police officer has died after responding to reports of an active shooter at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. Officials say the suspected gunman is also dead and that he was found in a building across the street from the CDC. No bystanders are believed to have been injured in the incident, but several bullets hit CDC buildings. Emory University, which is located nearby, had issued a shelter-in-place order. It's now been lifted. New research could change the way we understand Alzheimer's disease and help explain why women are at greater risk. Experts say it's not only because women tend to live longer, hormonal changes like early menopause might also be a factor. Here's Jennifer Yoon.
She just kept on going. She never rested. She never really took much downtime.
Working 3 jobs, Sonia Cox refused to slow down most her life. But when Alzheimer's symptoms showed up, she deteriorated fast, says her daughter.
She forgot my dad first.
More women get diagnosed with Alzheimer's than men. For years, scientists assumed that was because women tend to live longer. Now, that understanding is changing. Researchers now think while age does play a role, so too do other risk factors.
We are really starting to discover that men and women are different in regard to the risk of dementia.
For example, the timing of key hormonal changes like menopause.
If the menopause is below age 40, we call it premature. And if it is between age 40 and 44, we call it early. And those are now being shown to be clear risk factors for cognitive decline and dementia.
But there's also so much scientists still don't know.
We're playing catch-up at this time.
Your task is to say whether you remember seeing the face.
This researcher searching for early signs of the disease through brain scans and blood samples.
We're trying to understand whether or not menopause is a window at which some females might be showing early signs of Alzheimer's disease, and whether we could capture them early so they could enter treatment and decide to alter their lifestyles to better age.
She actually had a full hysterectomy.
Looking back, Angelita now knows her mom was at greater risk for Alzheimer's because her ovaries were removed. That induces menopause and increased her risk of cognitive decline. It's led Angelita to change her choices.
I take better care of myself. I'm more aware of the hormonal challenges that I have. So when it became time for me to deal with my fibroids that I had, I chose not to have a full hysterectomy. Okay. I know you're going to make your punch.
Angelita works 2 jobs still. but she's trying to slow down and pass those habits down to her daughter. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's tennis sensation Victoria Mboko is riding high tonight after that stunning win in Montreal last night. Now the work of building and managing a high-profile career begins. Cameron McIntosh looks at the opportunities to come and the pitfalls to avoid.
18 years old and about to hit the biggest return of her life. It won Victoria Mboko her first pro championship, and soon, probably a lot more.
I honestly couldn't really believe that I would have been a champion at this tournament.
Starting the season ranked 350th, she's been quietly moving up until now. This win propelling her 61 spots to 24th overall.
I would say her agent's phone is ringing a lot today, and the upside for her is pretty tremendous.
Anne Peguerrero is a sports marketing expert. She expects we'll see a lot more of Mboko, sold not just as a rising tennis star with a power game some are comparing to a young Serena Williams, but as a Canadian winning at home as Canada focuses on itself.
So I think she has a really unique situation that other athletes probably haven't walked into before.
It's just one tournament, but the spotlight and pressure are now on. The last Canadian woman to win the National Bank Open went on to win the US Open Grand Slam. That's tough to match.
For the whole of Canada.
Unlike, say, a star 18-year-old NHL draft pick managed by a team, tennis players hire their own coaches, trainers, marketers. A win like this can open doors and pitfalls.
So in the same way that an artist or an actor is the industry and everybody is hanging off of them, she's going to find that there's a lot more people that start coming out of the woodwork right now and want a piece of her.
Her father, basking in the win, is confident she can handle it.
If you have discipline, you will accomplish a lot.
To know that people are around the world kind of watching me and cheering for me, it's just really heartwarming.
A potential star and emerging national hero with the ball and future in her court. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The family of an Indigenous man says doctors dismissed his pain during his final months of life.
He went somewhere where they were supposed to help him, and they didn't give him help.
How Manitoba health officials are responding to allegations of racism. Returning recyclables as an economic lifeline.
It's particularly has been tough on the people at the bottom of the income distribution.
As more people turn to this work to survive, experts warn it signals a bigger problem. And 35 years after the Oka crisis, a First Nation faces a new conflict.
Like any ordinary band member here, I'm fed up.
Why community members say cannabis stores are fueling chaos. We're back in 2. Newfoundland is upping the penalties for anyone violating wildfire restrictions as 3 major fires continue to burn.
We are continuing to see reports of people setting fires, and in some cases setting fires intentionally. I don't know the word that I can use to say how I feel about this. Beyond troubled and frustrated. Fines will range from $50,000 to $150,000.
Prison time is increased too. Now the maximum penalty is 1 year behind bars. 2 water bombers from Quebec are expected to arrive tomorrow, plus 2 additional bombers on Sunday. In California, this wildfire north of Los Angeles has thousands under a mandatory evacuation order. The Canyon fire started yesterday, and it's spreading quickly. There's no major damage or reported injuries, but the fire is only partially contained. The family of an Indigenous man is speaking out after Manitoba health officials admitted he experienced racism while being treated. Stephen Rockwell died 4 months after a delayed confirmation that his cancer had returned. Ian Fraze has the story.
Stephen Rockwell loved goofing around with his kids and the friends he'd send silly videos to.
I watched a man go from being a jolly, gentle giant that joked with everyone. Like, I didn't even know who he was by the end of it.
His family says Rockwell, who was Indigenous, received racist treatment at Thompson's Hospital. He was in remission from leukemia when he went to hospital 3 times in late 2023. His family says staff wasn't taking his pain seriously. They gave him pills, accused him of being a drug seeker, and sent him home.
He went somewhere where they were supposed to help him, and they didn't give him help.
His family says Rockwell was only treated urgently after a chiropractor felt the mass in his back that October.
He had tumors all over the place.
4 months later, he died of cancer.
What if they would have listened to us? What if they would have given him treatment faster?
Leona Massan says her son blamed racism.
He got upset and he told the doctors there, I want to be treated like everybody else on this ward.
Manitoba's Northern Health agreed with the family. Officials told them in July racism impacted how Rockwell was treated.
Adding experiences of racism into that healthcare journey is really just unfair.
As for Northern Health, in a statement to CBC News, it offered condolences to the family of Mr. Rockwell and is vowing to eliminate all forms of Indigenous-specific racism. This spring, Manitoba's government said systemic racism exists in healthcare after a report found people of color generally wait longer in Winnipeg ERs than white people. All Rockwell's 4-year-old daughter understands is that her dad isn't around. She went looking at the hospital.
She's like, are we here to see Daddy? We're going to go visit Daddy? And that's heartbreaking.
Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
As the cost of living soars, more people in Vancouver are looking to the recycling bin as a source for cash.
Just an honest way of getting by, right?
What some say it reveals about income inequality. Decades after the Oka crisis, another fight in one Mohawk community.
So even if our local population wants to change, you're going to have to contend with the likes of the Hells Angels, the Mafia.
The environmental and social conflict with cannabis at the center. The National takes you deeper into the story shaping your world next.
Houston, we have a problem.
Tom Hanks with the famous line in the blockbuster film Apollo 13, playing the American astronaut and mission commander Jim Lovell. Tonight we're learning Lovell has died. He became a household name during the Apollo 13 mission, the world holding its breath as he turned a near tragedy into a story of survival and triumph. Posting on social media, NASA said Lovell's life and work inspired millions. No cause was given for his death. Jim Lovell was 97. New evidence tonight of a possible giant gas planet 4.5 light years away from Earth. It was detected by the James Webb Space Telescope. The potential planet would be surrounded by gas, meaning it can't support life. Desperate times call for desperate measures, as the saying goes. In Vancouver, advocates say more and more people are collecting cans and bottles to return for cash to try to make ends meet. As Georgie Smythe reports, it's a consequence of tough economic times.
Right now, I'm looking for empty bottles, refundables.
In Vancouver's alleys, Grant Killian and Francis Taban make a bit of extra money collecting drink containers.
I don't drink anymore, so the smell bugs me a lot.
Each piece is worth 10 cents when it's returned to a recycling depot.
How much would let's say a full bag of a big garbage bag full of beer cans, how much roughly would you get from that?
30 bucks.
30 bucks.
It's not a lot, but it's enough that more people here see it as a way to help make ends meet.
It's more busy every day. It used to be, few guys who are either drug addicts or maybe alcoholic. Now it becomes more people losing jobs, less income, cost of living going up.
Everyone knows basic expenses are going up, but economic inequality is rising too. Canada's income gap, that's the difference in the share of disposable income between well-off and struggling households, is now the widest it's ever been.
And it's particularly has been tough on the people at the bottom of the income distribution.
They're also more likely to be affected by economic uncertainty and job losses. Turning that around would require targeted policies like better income supports, says this economist.
So we actually need a government that pays attention, well, basically to the vast majority of people who aren't rich, who are struggling with the day-to-day cost of living.
There's another can there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Some who collect and recycle Vancouver's trash for money say the work keeps them motivated and active, even if it's exhausting and tedious.
Look at him. He's carrying all those, and he hasn't made even $10 yet.
But at this end of the income spectrum, people have little other options.
Just an honest way of getting by, right?
The weight of getting by is a heavier load for some. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now it's time to look closely at the story shaping our world. The Israel-Hamas war has sparked protests globally, and in London this weekend, thousands more are expected to show up and speak up.
Protests is one of the most powerful things people can do.
We'll explore the power of protest through the lens of a renowned photographer. But first,
They're going too far, too fast.
35 years after the Oka crisis, the Mohawk community of Gaza City faces another fight, this time over the pine trees and the expanding cannabis megastores. Jorge Barrera visited that Quebec First Nation in the midst of a council election to gauge the rising tension and the shifting priorities.
What we fought for in '90 is what we're still fighting for today. But now it's not against the golf course. It's not against Oka. It's against our own people.
This sign went up on July 11th, the 35th anniversary of the Oka crisis. A plan by the village of Oka to plow over an area known as the Pines to expand a golf course led to a botched police raid.
Coming in! Coming in!
That ignited a 78-day standoff that resonated around the world.
It was a bloody day at the Mohawk Indian community in Oka, Quebec,
as armed Mohawk warriors confronted Canadian soldiers who laid siege to Genesadage.
It's a little hard to walk through this, but...
Now, not far from those old front lines, a group of women in the community are trying to protect the pine trees again, this time from rampant cannabis cash fuel development all around them.
These cannabis shops, they came here and they just have brought a lot of destruction.
You can see all the trees, they're all torn down. This is all new, this is fresh. You can see it's still fresh.
It makes me angry. I just want to get angry. That's all I feel is anger. Because it's like, how could you do this?
And it's not just the pines. You know, there's stores that are taking up our shorelines. There are gas stations that are near our shorelines.
The relative peace of the community shattered by this. Cannabis megastores with casinos and bars crowd the highway through Genesadage. Some hosting concerts, parties day and night, drawing floods of outsiders. There's no one to police the chaos. The local force was disbanded after another conflict in 2004. Quebec's provincial police mainly comes in when called for major incidents, leaving few to stand in the way.
I think a lot of this stems from unchecked development and a cultural shift in the last 30 years since the crisis.
Brant Etienne is one of the candidates running to be the next Grand Chief. He says the challenge is not just environmental. He and the other candidates say crime groups have their claws in some cannabis operations.
So even if our local population wants to change, you're going to have to contend with the likes of the Hells Angels, the Mafia, whether that's Italian Mafia, Lebanese Mafia, Haitian Mafia, or any others.
Etienne knows how dangerous things can get in Genesadage from the ongoing fight over illegal dumping on the territory. This Environment Ministry video from the summer of 2024 shows how soil dumping was used to expand the waterfront of these two cannabis megastores along Lake of Two Mountains. The Quebec government has taken several Genesadage residents to court, including the owners of these two megastores, alleging they're involved in illegal dumping on Ganasdage territory. And Etienne, while on elected council, risked his life trying to stop a truck from dumping what he says was contaminated soil. When it suddenly plows into him, forcing him to hang on to the front as it carries him 40 feet.
Am I afraid of that? No.
Yeah. Why?
I might get shot. My house might be burnt down. The whole point of this, the whole point of being in governance is to make our small piece of the world better for the people here. You can't honestly do that if you're afraid of repercussions.
Couples in Albany, longtime friends, also say that speaking out could bring danger, but it doesn't stop them.
But there is still that underlying fear because everyone knows where everyone lives. Yeah. They can show up to your house. If people want to come here and threaten us, so be it, But I'm not backing down.
Yeah. And I also believe, though, that our ancestors are standing with us, too, and they are protecting us.
Yeah.
I do believe that,
It happened in '90 that they were there with us, and it's going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to see any armed standoffs, that's for sure. We've been through too much already.
Serge Simon is also running for Grand Chief.
Like any ordinary band member here, I'm fed up.
Simon's family runs 2 small cannabis stores, but they don't sell booze or host slot machines, a line he feels separates them from the mega stores, which community members say cause the most chaos and environmental damage.
We respect the community, like the hours. We don't hold big events. We don't sell hard drugs under the table. Our stores did not take anything from the community.
He says there's no easy fix.
The worst thing I could possibly do, or any council could possibly do, is to just step back and say, you know what, we're just going to let it go. Eventually it's going to implode because they're going too far, too fast.
Simon himself was also attacked after a May 2024 confrontation with community members over suspected illegal dumping.
It's a slim chance, but we have to take it.
He still hopes words can find the path to the answer.
I'm hoping that reason will help step back from the disaster that's coming. We have to be able to talk. Sit down and honestly talk, just like our ancestors used to do.
Back in the woods, Albanian couples say they have no faith in the band government to make any changes. They plan to continue their own watch to preserve what remains of the pines, the forests in their homes.
We're here to share the land with our children, with different generations. We're not here to just share it and keep it for ourselves, for our one generation to get rich.
The cannabis stores have done way more destruction on these pines than the golf course. Yeah. Way more. At least the golf course is pretty to look at. This is so ugly.
The election Jorge was reporting on ended up being canceled just hours before the vote last Saturday after the chief electoral officer declared the process flawed. A new date has not been announced. As images of hunger and pain continue to come out of Gaza, crowds around the world continue to gather to protest this deadly conflict.
I would lose my mind if I witnessed the world as we see it today and not do anything about it.
After the break, what drives people to keep fighting for change, whether or not it makes a difference? Margaret Evans tackles that question next. Israel's planned Gaza City takeover has drawn criticism globally. The ongoing war has sparked months of protests.
It can often be an important tool to snap the public and the media attention back onto an issue.
In times of conflict, what impact do acts of public resistance really have? Senior international correspondent Margaret Evans explored that question back in June alongside renowned protest photographer Misan Harriman as thousands rallied in London demanding an end to the war in Gaza.
The drumbeat, not of war, but of Gaza's pain and suffering, raising its head on London streets time and again this past year. Sometimes feeling strong enough in the moment to crack open concrete and pierce the heart of a seemingly indifferent world.
I think having so many people on the streets for Palestine definitely sends a message to the government.
We got to give those people a voice. They're trapped and the world's looking away. We're free, we can come out and shout about it and raise their situation to hopefully for the better, for some changes to be made.
But not so far. Gaza's nightmare is nowhere near an end. Allegations against Israel of the gravest of war crimes have only grown, and most Western governments have yet to add teeth to the lip service they regularly pay to the sanctity of international law.
Free the people, free the land!
All the more reason to keep showing up, say the marchers. A common thread binding them, a belief in old-fashioned people power and its ability to change the world.
We have work to do, and sometimes we go backwards. But protest is one of the most powerful things people can do.
Misan Harriman is a Nigerian-born British photographer and filmmaker. He often turns his lens towards those who back their own moral conviction with action.
Wow. It is like bathing in humanity. And the sheer scale of humanity that you see, whether it's climate, Palestine, women's rights, voter rights.
Harriman is an ambassador for Save the Children and a regular fixture at London demonstrations demanding a ceasefire in Gaza.
I follow you.
He's also a bit of a local hero.
He's famous.
His own belief in the power of protest embedded itself in him from a young age, watching South Africa's anti-apartheid movement from afar.
I was a kid during apartheid. What could I do? I used to see things on the TV. During the Iraq War, I was a young man, but we didn't get the same live stream horrors coming from the people of Iraq as they were being killed, as we do from the people in Gaza.
Ignoring what's happening, he says, is not an option.
It's about right and wrong, and I know for sure that history has taught us that you cannot bomb anyone for peace. Certainly not children.
Both past and present suggest that to effect real change through people power is a difficult ask, especially in the here and now. Large-scale demonstrations in Israel demanding the government agree to a ceasefire in exchange for the Israeli hostages taken by Hamas in 2023 have consistently failed to shift Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's refusal. The largest public protest in the United Kingdom was in 2003, when more than 1 million people marched against the Iraq War. It didn't stop it, but analysts say the lack of an immediate result doesn't necessarily mean failure when it comes to the objectives of the protest.
Activists need to be just as savvy.
Sam Nadell is with the Social Change Lab, which tracks protest movements as drivers of social change.
So often you see protesters demanding the prime minister or a president step down, and rarely they're successful. But the legitimacy of that leader can often be fatally undermined by protests, which days, weeks, years later can end up leading to them stepping down.
He says events can be hard to read in the short term.
Protests, whether it's in relation to Gaza or the anti-Iraq war or climate change or any other issue, is often just one tool that activists, movements and campaigners can use, but it has to be accompanied by a range of other different measures.
Last month, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney joined Britain's Keir Starmer and France's Emmanuel Macron in issuing a statement criticizing what they called the egregious actions of the Israeli government, not just in Gaza, but in the West Bank. It's far from enough, say activists, including Gary Pitcher, who calls the lack of a stronger response from Western governments shameful. But he also believes something has started to shift.
Just over these last couple of weeks, there's been a change in the way mainstream media in Britain is reporting on this conflict. They're being more critical of Israel.
Whether that's the result of protests like these, or simply that the sheer level of brutality unleashed on the people of Gaza has finally become unbearable, is hard to say. Sam Nadell says unbridled access to social media can be a double-edged sword when it comes to motivating group action.
I think there's definitely a sort of a sense of fatigue from the observers of all of this as well, because people do end up tuning out. And one thing I would say with protest is it can often be an important tool, if nothing else, an important tool to snap the public and the media attention back onto an issue.
It can be helpful in other ways too, say campaigners, a way of fighting impotence and despair in dark times. For Carolyn Heyman, it is a reminder of the never again promise after the Holocaust.
You know, when the Jews were being murdered, so many people didn't do anything, and the Jews could have said, "Where were you?" What? And so I feel like that's what the people in the Palestinians are thinking now. You know, we're being murdered, and where are you, and what are you doing?
Sorry, madam. Do you mind if I take you to your side?
For Misan Harriman, the act of joining others in common cause, bathing in humanity as he calls it, and documenting it, is a salvation.
It's not a weight. It releases me. I would lose my mind if I witnessed the world as we see it today and not do anything about it.
Turning away, he says, closing our eyes, is simply not a choice.
Margaret, there's controversy surrounding a different demonstration that's planned for London tomorrow. Tell us about that.
Well, it's in support of a group called Palestine Action, which was added to a list of banned terrorist organizations by the British government last month. Unjustly so, say critics. The group doesn't advocate violence against people, but it does support direct action against British military assets, against arms manufacturers based in the UK, that it says support Israeli actions in Gaza. And the police here are warning that to show up at the demonstration may well be construed as support for a terrorist group and lead to arrest. Critics say that is a clear violation of free speech, and a High Court judge recently granted permission to Palestine Action to challenge the government ban.
Thank you, Margaret. Margaret Evans in London tonight. Coming up, the Australian attempting to become the first woman to walk the length of the earth.
It's a real privilege, especially in this day and age, and sometimes really frustrating that it's taken so long for a woman to be in the position to do it.
8 years, 13 countries, and now she's in Waterton Park, Alberta, and in our moment. That's Lucy Barnard and her dog Wombat, just after they crossed the border from Montana into Alberta. Barnard has spent the last 8 years traveling through the Americas on foot. She's on a mission to become the first woman to walk the length of the earth, specifically from the southernmost city in Argentina to the northernmost town in Alaska. Tonight, her journey is our moment.
Oh my gosh.
A man called George Megan, who'd become the first person to walk the length of the earth back in 1983. I could see that no woman had done it. So I started on the 19th of February 2017. It is a 30,000 kilometre hike. I have a dog with me. Wombat is an Australian cattle dog. Canada is country number 13. When I got to the terminus, it has United States and Canada on the other side. To walk up and touch that is something that's remarkable, because I honestly didn't think that I would make it this far. I'm going to follow the Great Divide Trail for the first 1,000 kilometres, and that takes me up to Prince George, and I'll have a sled with me and I'll be snowshoeing along those trails to make it over to Alaska. It's a real privilege, especially in this day and age, and sometimes really frustrating that it's taken so long for a woman to be in the position to do it. I'm eager for it. I know I'm going to suffer a lot, but I also am excited.
22 pairs of shoes and counting. Barnard's motivation for doing this? To move the benchmark for women adventurers. The Australian Geographic Society named her the 2024 Adventurer of the Year, and her trusty companion wombat, Canine Adventurer of the Year. Thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Heather Hiscox. Good night.